Carol Wayne was a famous TV star who played a blonde who was dizzy on The Tonight Show. Her trip to Mexico in January 1985 was with a man. After a fight, she left by herself. On the third day, her body was found floating in shallow water. The strangest thing? The water scared her so much that she couldn't swim. Even stranger, her lungs didn't have any water in them. Her body was burned quickly. Now the new formal accounts have come out with more shocking information. Wayne was born in Chicago on September 6, 1942. Both Elizabeth and Edward, her mother, were artists. Their house was always busy with players coming and going and papers on the table. Stories were told late into the night. Carol wasn't the only kid who loved this artistic world. Her boys were older than her. Michael and Patrick, both of whom became artists. From the beginning, Carol was surrounded by other people performing. She watched plays, learned stage directions, and picked up the beat of the applause while other kids played with toys. Carol had already played small parts on stage by the time she was 10. She didn't need to be persuaded. She did performances all the time. That wasn't her first dream though. That happened in the winter when her dad took her and her sister Nina to see a Christmas ice show. They were mesmerized by the lights, the music, and the skaters' ease. Both girls signed up for skating school the very next week. What began as an interest turned into a fixation. By the time Nina was 6, both of her sisters were training very hard. They got up at 5 in the morning to practice for 3 hours every morning before school. After school, he went skating again every day. They skated for 8 hours every day and did their chores at the same time, and trying to do well in school. Their parents did everything they could to help them, like getting the best coaches, giving up things, and going to games. The work paid off. Carol and Nina won events all over the Midwest when they were teenagers. A lot of people loved them. Scouts did the same thing. Everything changed in 1957. Nicole was 14 and Carol was 15. The Ice Capities talent hunters saw them at an area game. The Ice Capities wasn't just a show, it was the biggest traveling ice show in America and every skater's dream. It was a huge deal. But there was a catch. They had to quit high school. Since their parents were okay with it, they said yes. The Wayne sisters hit the road and went on a 42-city tour that went from Madison Square Garden in New York to the Sports Arena in Los Angeles. The audience loved them. They did shows twice a day, practiced all the time, and moved non-stop. Things went badly in 1959 though. On stage, Carol's skate hit something on the ice. It was probably a penny that someone in the crowd had thrown. She fell very hard. It broke her knee. Even though she finished the tour, the accident left a 5-inch scar and put an end to her skating career. Just 17 years old, she didn't have a high school graduation or a plan B. She only had a lost dream and a strong sense of loss. Later, Carol said that they were just two pretty girls who didn't go to school. Not sure what would happen next. Nina turned to a different stage, Las Vegas, as they finished skating. Back in 1958, they worked as showgirls at the Tropicana and did shows in the famous Foley's Bergère. Their clothes were very flashy and showing. There are feathers, glitter, and not much else. Could you ask them for a couple more feathers? Their mother asked when she saw them backstage for the first time. Carol laughed a lot about that time, but the difference was real. Between the quiet theater days of her youth and the loud, flashy world of Las Vegas, being a showgirl wasn't all sparkle and shine. It let doors open. Nina and I started going to Los Angeles to meet new people, try out for roles, and move closer to our new goals. Things changed that night. In early 1965, the sisters drove straight to Los Angeles from a show in Las Vegas and ended up at a party full of Hollywood directors. Carol caught my eye. Someone from the casting office came up to me and said, "We need a girl just like you." He wasn't joking. Carol went to the screen test the next morning, even though she had barely slept. She did a great job. Her high-pitched speech, good timing, and charm worked. She got the part. In early 1965, around the same time, she met Lorto Larry Syra, a businessman who often went to the Tropicana. All sparks shot off quickly. After 8 weeks, they got married in Vegas at the Little Church of the West. Nina and a few close friends were there. There was no honeymoon. Carol had to go to some tryouts. Work came first. Things never really changed in that way. The marriage didn't last long. Because of her work in Hollywood and Larry's business, they didn't get to see each other very often. In June 1967, they split up. Carol said later that it felt more like a long date than a marriage. She got her big break in 1966. In that year, she played Ginger Lever in an episode of The Man from UNC Lee called The Super Colossal Affair. Even though her part was short, Carol made it stand out. She also played Sheila in The Faustus Affair in the sister show The Girl from UNC Lee the same year. She did more than act. She stood out. Hollywood took notice and it all started. She started getting the same types of parts over and over again. The sexy dumb blonde. She had been stuck in that box for the whole of her career. But not every job was just one thing. She played Temple Jones in an episode of I Spy on January 25, 1967, which was called The Trouble with Temple. She wasn't just pretty this time. She was weak because she was in a bad relationship with a man who was thought to be working for the enemy. The episode, which was filmed in Toledo, Spain, gave her a chance to show more. Some people said it was her best work. The story had a lot of layers and was very tense. In A Dark Side Story, Bill Cosby's character was high, but Carol was the star of the show. She wasn't just flirty or funny. It showed that she was human and what she could do if someone let her. She made a big splash on two of the biggest comedy shows of the decade when she went back to comedy. There were 2 times she was on Bewitched. On November 6th, her most well-known show aired. 1969 in the book A Bunny for Tabitha. Uncle Arthur tried to call a bunny for a kid's party but got Carol Wayne instead, who was dressed as a bunny. Complete chaos. Carol was great for it and it was classic witchy fun. She had also appeared earlier as a cute but clumsy brunette in the Disappearing Samantha episode from season 2. She also played Bootsy Nightingale on I Dream of Jeannie around the same time. Bootsy loved everything pink. She had a pink dress, a pink dog, the whole shebang. An agent for her made it possible for pilot Tony Nelson to take her to a charity ball. Jeannie didn't like it, of course. There was one reviewer who said Carol was the best thing about the show and even said she was better than Barbara Eden. It didn't happen often. Sarah Carroll's first movie was Gun, which came out in 1967 and was directed by Blake Edwards. She had a small part as Ernestine, but it was enough for Edwards to notice. He cast her again in The Party, which came out in 1968 and starred Peter Sellers. The movie made $2.9 million in rentals in the US, even though it cost $1.5 million to make. She played June Warren and did well in a movie that was mostly about Sellers' crazy acting and controversial role as an Indian actress. Everything was a loose comedy set at a crazy dinner party. The art wasn't very good, but it was funny and Carol fit right in with the other people in the group. Not only was her Hollywood resume getting longer, but so was her personal life. Carol married Barry Feinstein on February 17, 1969. Feinstein is a rock music photographer who is known for his work with Steve McQueen and Bob Dylan. It was her second marriage. It had been 2 years since the end of her first relationship, to Loretto Larry Sierra. People talked about her new relationship at the wrong time. Feinstein had just split up with Mary Travers, who was married to Peter Paul and Mary. Some people thought Carol might have been to blame. People say she laughed it off and called Travers Peter Paul and scary. It was 1970 when Carol had a child. Her boy Alex Feinstein was born. Between Los Angeles and Joshua Tree they stayed together, but by 1974 they were no longer married. You could see her on TV shows like I Spy, Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie before she ever met Johnny Carson. People loved her even though she often played the naive girl. Then 1971 came along. Then everything changed, became the afternoon girl on Johnny Carson's The Tonight Show. She wasn't the first person to play the part, but she really owned it when she did. It was hers now. She showed up more than 100 times between 1971 and 1984. Just in 1974 she showed up 38 times. The Tea Time movie sketch with Art Ferns and the Theater Lady was one of the funniest things ever shown on TV. Carson played Art Fern, a greasy head host with a beard, who made up movie openings and gave made-up directions like drive past the neon penguin wearing sunglasses. With her big eyes and a smile, Carol stood next to him and pretended to be the beautiful girl who never got his dirty jokes. That was the act though. She didn't have no idea at all. She was smart in real life. When she did it was wonderful. Don Rickles made a joke about Miami Beach and Carol said, "Oh Miami Beach, that's God's little waiting room," in her little girl way. Everyone was surprised. The pretty woman was smart and she used her smarts well. She was a fan favorite by 1972. Many people liked how she seemed innocent while still being able to handle herself in a room full of actors. Even the naughtiest sketches were funny because of her high-pitched voice and childish charm. She wasn't just there to look pretty. That one line made the joke really funny. Carol's fame kept rising when she wasn't on The Tonight Show. Game shows gave her a new beat. In 1974, she and Joey Bishop became regulars on the show Celebrity Sweepstakes. Ralph Andrews and Burt Sugarman, who would become her husband, organized the show. On these game shows, she can show a different side of herself that isn't planned. Funny and quick to think. In 1979, she was also on Mantrap, Hollywood Squares, and Hugh. She was no longer just a late-night star. She had also become a mainstay on daytime TV. She began meeting Sugarman at the end of 1974. He was the man behind the Midnight Special, and her work on game shows, got married on December 28, 1975. It was her third marriage. She first married Loretta Ocera in 1965, and then she married rock photographer Barry Feinstein in 1969. Feinstein was the father of her 1970 child, Alex. But this new marriage to Sugarman didn't last long. Some say it went on for a month. Some people say they were married until 1980. In either case, it didn't work out and didn't protect her financially. Carol had a much quieter side, even though she was known for playing a cute blonde. In 1974, she talked about how much she loved gardening on one of her shows with Carson. She also grew bonsai trees, which are very delicate and take a lot of time. No one thought the theater lady would say that. She was so taken with the beauty and movement of Andalusian horses that she raised them. It wasn't just for show. It made her happy. That's what she said about her son, calling him the terror of Tiny Town in jest. She was proud though. Carol was a woman who was looking for peace behind all the laughter. In 1979, she tried to get back into movies. A young Arnold Schwarzenegger and Cloris Leachman were among the famous people who were in Scavenger Hunt. She had a small part in the movie. Heaven on Earth was a TV movie she did too. In the same year, movies like Gypsy Angel and Savannah Smile gave her more important parts. After that, Heartbreakers came out in 1984. Many people said it was her best act. Roger Ebert himself said that she made the movie work because she was so good and so sad. It looked like people were beginning to pay attention to her. But behind the scenes, things were going badly in her personal life. Carson cut The Tonight Show down from 90 minutes to 60 minutes. That meant Carol would be in fewer tea time movie sketches and show-ups. By 1980, both her time on the show and her marriage to Sugarman were coming to an end. It was over after 5 years. She was by herself. In 1981, Carol Wayne's life began to change in a way that no one saw coming. She had been on The Tonight Show for years, and had been in over 100 shows as the bubbly noon lady. In the humor shows of Johnny Carson, people loved her wide-eyed charm and how she and Carson could play together. Carson was tired that year though. He said he would quit the show if NBC didn't agree to shorten it. The network gave in and cut the show from 90 minutes to 60 minutes. Carson may have felt better after that half-hour cut, but Wayne's career was quietly ruined. Her parts were taken away. The noon lady was no longer there. Because of the show, Carol lost her most stable job. She used to be on late-night TV all the time. She had almost stopped showing up by 1983. On January 24, 1984, she did her last show on The Tonight Show. Carol knew it was the end of an age, but she didn't give up. She did something different in November 1981. She got a part as a guest star on The Fall Guy, an ABC hit action show. In 2 shows, she played a person named Rose. She said something strange in one of them. A woman named Rhonda had left for Mexico and wasn't coming back. After 3 years, that line would bother everyone. At the time, no one gave it much thought. Carol Wayne went to Mexico with a guy named Edward Durston in the beginning of 1985. She left for a walk on the beach after a fight and never came back. A hunter in the area found her body 3 days after she disappeared. The scary line from The Fall Guy felt like a dark prophecy all of a sudden. Carol was having a hard time even before that terrible trip. After her split from director Burt Sugarman in 1980, she had fewer contacts in the business. She also lost a lot of money when she lost her daily spot on The Tonight Show. She tried to make ends meet by getting small parts on TV shows from time to time. In the 1970s, she was in over 40 episodes of Love American Style. But offers were quickly running out by the early 1980s. She didn't have a way to protect her money. She was smart and articulate when she wasn't on TV, but her public image held her back. The blonde beauty with the silly laugh. George Schlatter, the producer, once said that her dumb blonde act was her best performance. It was a cave though. She got a part in the fun family movie Savannah Smiles in 1982. It's about a little girl who runs away, makes friends with two prisoners, played a minor part, and her name was Doreen. The movie did pretty well, making allegedly over $10 million. She could show a different side of herself. Most of the attention though was on someone else this time, child actor Bridget Anderson, who really stole the show. Carol did her best. Hollywood wasn't paying attention. Things were going wrong behind the scenes. She had worked steadily for years but now had almost no money. On December 19, 1984, she formally asked to go bankrupt. The papers she had said it all. That year she had made no money. In 1983 there was not a single job. She still had some land that was worth maybe $2 million, but she didn't have any money coming in or going out, and she didn't know what her future held. The business had turned its back on her when she was 42 years old. In the same month she posed naked for Playboy, which shocked her friends. Coming back wasn't very brave. It was an awful move. Carol wasn't a new star trying to stand out, she was someone who was trying to stay alive. The pictures were not very fancy, but they were a last-ditch effort to stay popular and make some cash. At about the same time she shot Heartbreakers, the drama that would be her last part. She played a model named Candy who does fantasy pictures in the movie. It was amazing how she performed. In his review, Roger Ebert said she was so good and so sad that it was like hearing the real Carol Wayne. The report was her best ever, but it came too late. Some people still thought she was good. Richard Pryor was one of them. Even though they came from different places, they became good friends. He cared about her and tried to help her. Pryor told her he would pay for her rehab and give her a part in one of his new movies if she got clean. It could have saved Carol's life, but she didn't take it. She might have been too stressed out. It's possible that she didn't think she had any more plans. Her drug use had gotten worse very quickly. It all started when her teenage son gave her clove smokes. Soon everyone was crazy about the sweet and spicy smell. Then came drugs like booze, then tranquilizers, and finally cocaine. Her friends saw that she wasn't herself. She showed up to a television show called Best Chest in the West looking, she knew she was falling even though she was as high as a kite. Some say she tried to change, but the damage was already done. She took a plane to Mexico in January 1985. She was 42 years old and used to be popular for being on The Tonight Show. Now she was broke and barely making ends meet. She went from being a showgirl in Las Vegas to being Hollywood's assistant. The success didn't last though. Her part was cut from the show and the money stopped coming in. Edward Durston was with her. He sold cars and had a loose Hollywood tie. Some people thought she went to Mexico to clean up, dry off, and maybe try again. For some it was one last chance to get away before going to rehab. The staff at Los Datas, the high-end resort where they stayed, said they didn't see anyone drying out. They were talking, dancing, and drinking. Carol still wanted to have fun. Roger Ebert had given her a great review for Heartbreak just a few weeks before. He said her part was to break his heart. She would never do that show again. On January 10th, things began to go wrong. Carol and Durston missed their trip back to Los Angeles because they checked out late. They went back to Los Datas to get their room, but it was gone. It was full at the lodge. The staff tried to help by giving them a place at the nearby Playa de Santiago hotel, which was less expensive. It wasn't like Los Datas at all. The glitz was gone. Carol was very angry, not just upset. She wouldn't get out of the taxi. The people who worked there said she called it a dump. She made a fuss and yelled in front of the guests. Durston and a bellhop brought their bags inside, but Carol stayed outside. After a short time she left by herself. No one saw her alive after that. Durston didn't follow her. He didn't call the police. He didn't even try to find her. He went to the bar instead, had a drink, and then left to check into another hotel. He checked them out, took their bags to the airport, and told the staff that Carol would pick up hers later the next morning. After that, he flew back to LA without her. He never said that she was lost. He just left. He said he was scared and didn't know what happened when asked later. But his name had been linked to a dead Hollywood woman before. In 1969, he was with Diane Linkletter, who was the daughter of Art Linkletter, when she died in a strange fall. A fisherman named Abel de Dios found Carol's body in Santiago Bay 3 days after she failed to show up. Her face was up in the water, and she was floating. She was fully dressed and only 4 feet deep. He put a hotel sheet over her so that the kids' clothes wouldn't be able to see her body. Carol was scared of water all her life. She was not able to swim. The only thing she did was shower. This is what the detective heard from friends. But there were no cuts, scrapes, or scars. There was just a body in calm water. The doctor said she had been dead for 36 to 48 hours, which was pretty much the same amount of time as when she disappeared. Tests showed that she did not have any drugs or alcohol in her blood. It was strange. Carol had a long background of drug problems, but she was now fully sober. No cuts, bruises, or other signs of having fought or slipped were found. It was even stranger that there was no water in her lungs. You don't find that in someone who drowned. Instead, the medical experts said that her heart had just stopped. This could have been caused by trauma or great fear, but not by drowning as most people think of it. The actual proof did not match the story. Then there was a bigger twist. The water scared Carol Wayne to death. It wasn't just a dislike, it was a full-on fear. People in her family, at work, and even her personal help all told her the same thing. She wouldn't swim, go near water, or even take a bath. It was only rain for her. Still, we're supposed to believe she went into the ocean by herself at night in a place she didn't know. Things are getting worse. It was only about 4 feet deep in the bay where her body was found. Peace and no flow. There is no risk. People who live there said it was one of the best places on the coast. It didn't make sense that she would drown and die since she was so afraid of water. Not by chance. What people did afterward only made the puzzle deeper. The Mexican government quickly did an autopsy. It was fast. Barry Feinstein, her ex-husband, agreed to the burning almost right away, even though he had never seen the body. There was no chance for a second view or for American detectives to look at her. No one even talked to her sister about it. The ashes were sent to her 13-year-old son in Los Angeles on January 22, just 9 days after her body was found. Again, the case is closed. After that, there was the insurance. Feinstein was still the receiver of Carol's life insurance, which had a clause that let it pay out twice as much. He would get twice as much money if her death was ruled an accident. That's exactly what took place. The Mexican report said it was an accident and not murder or suicide. Since cremation gets rid of all proof, no one could show otherwise. But the name of one man, Edward Durston, kept coming up. She had not seen him since she was last seen living. They had a fight right before she disappeared. He could have reported her missing, but instead he just checked out of the hotel, took her bags and flew home. He told her she could pick up her bags on her own. The thing is, Durston had been involved in other strange deaths before. In 1969, he was with Diane Linkletter, who was the daughter of TV host Art Linkletter, when she fell out of a 6th-floor window. Toxicology tests showed that Durston had not taken LSD as she said she had. Just like Carol, I don't use drugs. His story changed several times, and even though he took a polygraph test, the results were never made public. What are the chances that the same man is linked to the deaths of 2 actors 16 years apart in strange, unexplained ways? After that, Durston didn't go away. After that, he made a scary movie called I Drink Your Blood, which was based on the Manson killings. In fact, police once thought he might have been involved in those killings, because of his link to one of the victims. Even though his past was complicated, he was never charged with anything. He was the last person to see 2 women living. There were 2 times she died. The stories didn't match up either time. Years later, in 1990, William Lecoq, an official with the U.S. consulate, looked over Carol Wayne's case. He came to the conclusion that it wasn't just drowning. It was a death. That's not all there is to it, though. One line broke the case open again. Officials from both the U.S. and Mexico took another look. It was too late by then. The body was no longer there. It was cold on the walk. It was also impossible to prove anything new. The official story didn't make sense, even to Jorge Hernandez, the district attorney in Manzanillo. She walked into the water by herself, which he didn't believe. It scared her. It wasn't deep. It was quiet. It didn't fit at all. Still, even though there were more and more questions, the decision never changed. It is still said that she died in an accident. Each tip leads to a different place. There were no drugs, but the woman had a past of using drugs. There is no water in the lungs, but it can be found in the ocean. Supposedly drank water even though they had always been afraid of it. A last-minute funeral, an insurance policy, a man with a scary past, and a U.S. official who said they didn't believe it all. Carol Wayne never just drowned and died. It was something deeper, and no one has fully explained it yet.